Well, hello, everybody. I want to welcome every one of you guys, and we also want to welcome our online community that we have. And about a couple of months ago, we decided to have a community lecture. So please feel free to invite all your friends, family, loved ones, so they can learn and be encouraged and be inspired and be educated to what's the latest, greatest in health. Not just cancer, this just happens to be, a lot of you are a cancer community, but not everybody here has cancer. I know some of the patients I see right now do not have cancer. But cancer now is a pandemic all over the world. Last night I was reading on one of my conventional journals that pancreatic cancer now is the 4th leading cause of cancer death after breast, lung, and colon. So, and it's growing rapidly. And as everyone knows, if you're diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, it's a very, very serious, poor prognosis. Most of the patients are dead within a year. So that's why I'm all about prevention, proactive, personalized evaluation and testing, because there's so many things that we do that people are just now starting to learn about, starting to get acquainted with. And I pulled this, I had this in one of my journals. Benjamin Franklin's quote, "We must indeed all hang together, most assuredly we shall all hang separately." This was many years ago. So we as an organization have to all work together to help one another. There's been 2 very famous studies. A study was done at Harvard and a study in Sardinia, and there's a TED Talk on it, talking about the sense of community. You guys can help me just as much as I can help you and help one another. But and we've gotten away with that, with the advent of technology and with the advent of all of the wireless community, we don't connect anymore. But I know when I was little, everybody hung out all the time together and loved each other and hang out with nature. We've gotten completely away from that, and we're paying big time. And now we have all the wireless phones and Wi-Fi and everything. And I'm reading this phenomenal book called The Secret of Life. And I read about this book because because this gentleman was from Russia. He was a medical doctor. And he wrote this book in 1939. And it's about the energy of each one of us and how we are receivers and transmitters of energy. So if she is saying to me, Dr. Keneally is going to have a great day today, even in her mind, I am getting that message. Or if I say I'm sending her love and peace right now, she will receive it just because I'm thinking about it. So that's why our impeccable self-talk must be. So everything, and we all have negative thoughts all of the time. And so how we talk and what we say to one another and to ourselves needs to be beautiful, perfect, loving, and caring. And that's something we have to work at, because that's not the world. The world right now is kind of evil and demonic, unfortunately. People just want to tear down one another. But that's not how we're all going to survive and thrive together. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Right.
Yes. So that's why we decided several months ago that every Monday we would talk about you. Or maybe it's something I want to talk about to share with you that I've just learned. I'm always learning new things. And so, but each one of us has our own, Plato say, be kind to everyone, for everyone is fighting their own battle. And we all want to we're real quick to judge and go, oh, this, that, and the other, but no, you don't never know where anyone's been. And I can tell you, after 31 years of practicing, I know that. I know that. So if we just come from kindness and love, look how many people we can help without medicines. without interventions and treatments, if we would just all start with that. So with that said, community is the guru of the future. Harvard study was done with 750,000 men, and they said that the single greatest predictor of their life was their community. In Sardinia, where they did the TED Talk, it was their community. This is our community, and I want it to be as big as we can get it. You guys are just part of the seed, but I want this to be the world. We need to spread this message of hope and healing everywhere. You know, Voltaire has a very famous quote, entertain the patient while they get well. Because that's what doctors did a long time ago. Because they didn't have all the things that we have today. Now I do that, plus all the other things that we do. But we, as you guys know, we try to offer non-toxic healing therapies. We don't, our system tries not to do things that bring the patient down, that destroy the energy and the life force of the patient. So I want you guys, you know, everyone always has lots of questions. When you get the diagnosis of cancer, you are beyond overwhelming and in fear, right? Your life is changed in a nanosecond. And you're frozen and you're paralyzed because a doctor is telling you, oh, you need surgery, chemo, and radiation. If you don't do this, you're going to have 6 months to live. Well, first of all, I didn't go to medical school and learn how to do expiration dates, okay? So no other doctor did either, okay? And if you plant a seed with a patient, unfortunately, that can be something they carry on. But with the vision of hope, we can live a very, very, very long time. But if we have the vision of dying and defeat and disintegration, that's what we become. You become what you think about most of the time. So usually, most of the time, no cancer is an emergency. Not one cancer. Always get multiple opinions. You were given a God-given intuition to know what to do. Do not, unless it is an emergency, you need emergency surgery or emergency something, is it the time to go and be in the hospital? Take your time, because guess what? Just to go into surgery, and I have had surgery, so it's not like I'm not talking from someone who hasn't been deathly ill. But there is a whole process that needs to be taken place before you even have surgery. There's a great book on this, and I can't think of the author's name, but I will give it and mention it to you next time. But it was talking about how to prepare for surgery, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Because again, what the patient is thinking is how the surgery is going to be. And then you tell the surgeon, oh, Dr. Jones, listen, I want you to be really happy in my surgery. And then you tell the nurses, only think positive things, only think that this is going to be fantastic, we're going to get the best news. You want everybody happy that's involved while you're having surgery, right? The difference will be dramatic because we know that a thought becomes a thing. And this whole book that I'm reading is about that. And he takes human beings, he takes plants, and he takes animals. And it's more science than you'd ever want to read, so I would not necessarily go and buy the book, because even me, I'm rereading the chapters over. So, because it's a lot of physics, and it's inductance and capacitance and wavelengths and, you know, all stuff I learned in physics, which I didn't like, by the way. But anyway, you know, if you've ever taken physics, your brain is either good. I loved organic chemistry, but physics, like, I don't really care how far it takes for a football to fly over the field. I really don't. So. Anyway, so with all those things said, I'm going to open it up to you, because this is why we're here, is about you. And you're going to say something that may be helpful for this lady over here, and he may say something might be helpful for this beautiful lady here. So who would like to start?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, with estrogen-sensitive breast cancer, what natural treatments to deal with xenoestrogen, which I think is the biggest problem that we have?
So she had a great point. Yes. She had a great point. So she asked about an estrogen-sensitive tumor. So let's talk about that. So when a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer, they will tell a patient it's ER positive, PR positive, HER2, whatever. So those are 3 markers that are on a breast cancer. So ER means estrogen receptor positive. That means that when you take estrogen, it potentially can feed the cancer, all right? Now, she also mentioned one of the biggest culprits and toxins in our world today are something called xenoestrogen. Xeno is the Greek word for foreign estrogen, and they're everywhere. So the biggest culprit that you hear about now is plastics. So plastics are xenoestrogens. I have an entire list of things that we have here at the clinic. I would encourage you to get a list so you know how to avoid them in your personal life. What is the problem with xenoestrogens? They get in and gum up every fatty acid membrane. They cause cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. Now, what did she say? How do we take care of those? Well, one of the first things you start with is the avoidance of bad estrogen influence. That if I checked everyone in this room, including myself, we would have potentially bad levels of xenoestrogen in our body. So she said, how do we protect ourselves? Well, personally, sauna, infrared sauna, there isn't anything better. Always taking an essential fatty acid, which I like the PEOs better, the vegetarian oils, the parent essential oils. And right now I'm taking something called Xenoprotect. I don't take the same thing all the time. There's Xenoprotect, there's Myomin from Chi, there is Oncoplex from Zymogen. So there's multiple supplements that can help protect you from these estrogen feeding chemicals that are in the environment. Also, I want to bring up a point also that sometimes there's other cancers that are estrogen positive. So I always try to get my patients, even lung cancer can be estrogen positive. I had a patient recently who I said to the patient, did they check the receptors for hormones on the cancer? And so anyway, they hadn't, so we ordered it, and sure to come find out, it was estrogen positive. So the doctors don't, I shouldn't be ordering it, the doctor that did the surgery should be ordering it. So anyway, so always ask questions, and we don't wait till you just come here. You got to ask questions. That's why we're having this community discussion, because I want you guys to learn to be your own health advocates, not just with me, but anywhere you go. So that's a great question.
Do you recommend the Xenoprotect and the...
Right, well, what you can do, because you have the advantage of being here, is I like to energy check you. Right before I came in here, I just got finished energy checking myself to see what I needed for different things. So I use the Zyto machine, and we have everything loaded on there. So instead of randomly just picking, I check myself with that. It takes minutes, and then say there's 8 products. Well, what works best for me right now?
Right.
Because I'm not. Then in 2 months, I'm going to be a different person, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not the same person in 2 months. So that's how I do it. And since you're here, that's how I would recommend it.
Maybe we do it tomorrow.
Sure, of course you can. It takes a minute. So yeah, Liliana and John usually do those energy checks. So that's a great question. So who else? Let's bring up. I know you guys have questions. Yes.
I just saw you on Friday, and you had mentioned cancer and metabolic disease. You mentioned it was a hard read, and you said it was Brian Seafried from Yale.
Right.
Is that the same?
Yes.
Okay.
So she asked me, the question she asked me, she was clarifying in her appointment with me about, there's a great book called Cancer. It's another book you do not want to buy. It's $170, Cancer and Metabolic Disease. And it talks, a scientist, Dr. Seafried, wrote the book. Watch the YouTube. There's lots of YouTubes of Dr. Seafried. So just go on YouTube and watch a lot of his things. It's easy. It's a very biochemistry book if you want to read it. So I wouldn't waste my time, money, and energy. So anyway, I think he's a great guy, but it would be very complicated. So who else? Come on, you guys. I know you guys are loaded questions. Don't be afraid.
I have a question.
Sure.
So we know that sugar feeds cancer cells. Does iron as well? And if it does, then is it better to, if you're a vegan and you don't eat meat, what is the best way to get iron? And do you always just have to keep your blood levels checked to see that you're in some type of normal range, so you're not deficient or you're not in excess?
Right, that's a great question. So she asked about sugar-feeding cancer. So Otto Warburg got the Nobel Prize back in 1931 that cancers thrive on a fermentation sugar-eating process, okay? A cancer cell has many receptor sites for sugar. A normal cell has 4. That's when they do a PET imaging, when they order a PET scan for your body. It's called a positron emission tomography. It checks the SUV, the sugar uptake value of the cancer. So we know that's why they tell you to fast, so that the cancers, the sugar isn't already being tied up in the body, that it will go straight to, you'll get identification of the cancer with the PET scan. So yes, okay, so this article that I was reading about the dramatic rise in pancreatic cancer, it's on people who are pre-diabetic, diabetic, and obese. So 3 things, like in our practice, I talk about the hemoglobin A1C. The hemoglobin A1C is a reflection of your blood sugar over 90 days. It is a pandemic also. When I say pandemic, that means all over the world. So we have to get our hemoglobin A1C down to as close to 5 to 5.2 as possible. That's ideal. Every single one of you, if you're a patient here, has already had their hemoglobin A1C checked. So the better that is, the better you are overall, not just for cancer, but anti-aging and wrinkling and all kinds of other negative metabolic processes that we don't want. The other question she said, is iron good or bad for cancer? So it's like sugar. Sugar's not good for cancer. Well, too much iron and too little iron. It's ideal levels. So we check the iron level. Your iron levels should somewhere be between probably around 50 to 100. The ferritin is the storage of iron. You don't want that more than around 50. And so, but some of our patients come in very sick, needing iron, okay? So just depends. You don't make any absolute stages. You decide based upon the clinical picture of the patient and then the blood levels. Like a patient, not of mine, but of somebody else's, their iron was only 12 and their ferritin was less than 50, so of course they needed a little iron. Now, the best source for iron, definitely the best ideal source, food-wise, is liver, like eating raw liver, okay? It's the best. Now, I just did buy some New Zealand liver tablets for our patients because I told a patient today, who's very weak, I told him to do liver, and he looked at me like I thought I was crazy. So I said, no, I'm not crazy. I've done it personally, so I know how to tell you. So anyway, raw liver. I grew up on liver, luckily, and so liver was not scary when I went to Whole Foods in the meat department, and I said, oh, can I have a pound of grass-fed liver? So, and I cut it up in teeny tiny pieces because I tried to eat it raw, and it tasted terrible. I thought, no, I don't think I can do this, but I can just swallow it. So I diced it up and took it with, hydrochloric acid. But in 20 minutes, you should all do this experiment. I'm serious, it's true. So in 20 minutes, you feel like you're Superwoman or Superman, depending on what sex you are. So and I'm being very serious. So, because the first night I did it, I had my twins with me at Whole Foods, and they were young. This was a long time ago. They were young. And so they're like watching every step of what I'm doing, right? And so I come home at 4 o'clock, dice this liver up, eat the liver. I am up all night long. So I'm like, okay, that's not a good thing. So I started back over, skipped a day, and started the next day. 3 tablespoons with hydrochloric acid, teeny tiny pieces. I did not chew it, I swallowed it. So anybody who's had surgery, because their body needs to be, because they've lost blood, right? They've lost blood, so they need, fortification. So, yes.
Does everybody need to take it with the
Hydrochloric acid.
Hydrochloric acid, or just people who are hypochondriac?
No, I personally, because I didn't chew it,
Yeah.
so you need the hydrochloric acid
And
too.
how much would you take with it?
Well, there's different kinds, but I would probably take like 2 pills.
Excellent.
Right. Good question. Okay, did I answer your question?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right.
Can't wait.
I know, I can see those exciting eyes.
Yes.
All right, so, yes, who's the next question? Come on. Yes, ma'am.
In general, what are the worst foods and the best foods you could eat for your cancer?
Okay, well, first, you're not gonna take ownership of a cancer.
Can you repeat that
right?
question?
So she asked, what are the best foods and the worst foods you can eat when you have cancer? Well, for your cancer. And I said, well, first of all, you never take ownership or become your diagnosis. This is an episode of existence. And the reason why we have an episode, because we would never learn anything. Is that correct? Okay. I know we don't want to learn lessons, but there is no other way. If you can think of another way to learn a lesson, I'm going to be signing up. Okay? But I know in my 60 plus years of life that I don't know any other way. That's why prevention doesn't sell. That's why this room is not filled, because people who are okay don't really care. But I will tell you, if you don't have your health, what are you good at?
I mean,
You're not good for anything, correct?
exactly.
You're not good for anything. You're not good for yourself, your family, your job, your spirituality, anything, right?
Right.
So that's why we have to all teach that health is your most important asset. That is what one of the most resounding messages you should be telling all your friends and family and loved ones is health, health. Health, by the way, cannot be bought at Walmart or anywhere else. You can't go get new body parts at Sears. Okay? And so you have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. I hate to say it. Okay? And I grew up in a time where really honestly people did eat bologna sandwiches and Miracle Whip and Wonder Bread. Okay, I mean, yeah, really, okay? They did, okay, and Spam, all right? Now, fortunately, my mother was a fanatic about how we ate, so we ate better than most people, okay? And so, and to this day, there's 6 of us, and to this day, no one's really had any major illnesses. And I attribute a lot of it to how we grew up our first 18 years. So, she didn't take us to the doctor. I don't remember, the only first time I remember going to the doctor is I went to go get a college physical. This is a true story. So my mom made everything at home. We didn't go out because you can't take six to the restaurant because they'd never allow you back again, right? So we ate at home. And but people eat cereal. I remember years ago, I gave a lecture at a private school here in Orange County, and I said, so it was a bunch of probably about 5th graders, and I said, okay, what does everybody eat for breakfast in the morning? Cereal! And I'm like, oh my gosh, cereal. And I said, well, that is like eating a candy bar for breakfast. It's 100% sugar. No nutrient value. In fact, it has nutrient sucking value, right? So when you eat, you need to be really mindful and conscious of your eating. Very mindful and conscious. And say, how is this morsel, big or small, going to rehabilitate and help my cells be healthy? So macaroni and cheese, I promise, will not make a healthy cell. Oreos will not, okay? Now, if you buy the produce on special, whether it's fruits or vegetables at the store, whatever's on special is what you're supposed to be eating because that's what they have plenty of. So you eat what's plenty. You don't buy strawberries in December because it's not strawberry season. So you buy things, and fortunately in California, we have everything, all right? But you eat things that are on special. So whatever the vegetable on special, that's what you're supposed to be eating. Now, you need to have some fat. Fat is fuel. Fat is energy. People always think, and that's why we have a flood of obesity now and a flood of prediabetes and a flood of diabetes, because they said everything was low fat. The lower your fat, the higher your sugar levels, because when you eat fat as a blocking level to not let the sugar go high. So sugar is, anything with sugar, let's just face it, there was a great little thing I used to use and give all my patients 25 years ago, like the 42 things that sugar does to your body. It destroys your immune system, which is what helps you stay healthy from everything, right? Everything. Their heart disease is an immune problem. Cancer is an immune problem. Neurological problems are immune. Everything's an immune problem. So you need your immune system. So fat is your friend, but it can't be man-made fats like potato chip, olestra. That is not going to work. But nuts and seeds and olive oil and coconut oil and avocados, all those things. And if you notice, like if I get hungry, I have in here a tablespoon of, I use something called nutso. And nutso is a combination of fats, of seeds and nuts. So I just go and do a tablespoon of that. And then I'm literally not hungry for 3 hours. So you can do almond oil, you can do butter, you can, whatever your fat of choice, okay? I like all different kinds of fats. So fat is your friend, not your foe. Fats give you long-lasting energy. If you eat a bagel, you're hungry in about an hour because it's basically a sugar rush. Any kind of bread, any kind of donuts, carbohydrates, any kind of thing. It's just sugar. So it lasts it lasts about an hour. If you eat protein, it lasts about 4 hours. If you eat fat, you're full for 8 hours. That's why fat needs to be the #1 ingredient of what you eat, okay? So fat is your friend. Fat is, in fact, I did a little experiment. I don't know how it's going to come out. Last week I told a patient because they didn't want to go on a fast. And I said, okay, I want you to eat a tablespoon of fat every 2 hours. And you're going to come back and see me. I don't know what the verdict is, but I've already kind of done it myself, so I know it's going to be okay. So anyway, then protein. So protein could be protein powder. Some people of our patients are vegetarian, so they do protein powder and other kind of proteins. They don't eat meat, chicken, and lamb and turkey. Fish you just can't eat anymore because it's loaded with plastics and mercury. So it's just, I love fish, but it's just an off-limit protein. So does that answer your question?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I have a question,
Okay.
Dr. Keneally.
Yes.
So I had breast cancer 2 years ago, been monitoring my circulating tumor cells with our GCC, the number 6.7, Nagli's testing 1.34. My immune system appears to be suppressed. What would you recommend to boost my immune system in order to eradicate the circulating tumor cells? Are you familiar with HOCOT? And if you are, would this be an effective treatment?
So everybody familiar with what she's saying? How old is she?
She did not give me an age, Dr.
Okay, well,
Sue.
it kind of matters. It does matter.
And by the way, Nutso's available at Costco, someone's telling me.
Oh, good, you guys. Seriously, you guys will love it. Try it, I'm telling you. I could work for the company now.
Is it just oil or nuts?
It's
nuts,
seeds
like
and
a
nuts.
almond butter
Seasoned.
looking.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. So. Anyway, so she asked.
She's 55.
55. So she's 55. She had breast cancer 2 years ago. Her circulating tumors are 6.7. What lab did she use? This is a great little
Okay, Sheila, answer back.
Okay, so what lab? We want to know what lab so we know. So we know that circulating tumor cells are the future of oncology, guys. It is the future. If you want to know a good lecture from an oncologist in Illinois, Max Wicha, W-I-C-H-A, has a beautiful talk on circulating tumor cells. And anyway,
RGCC.
okay, RGCC. So she uses the lab we use. There's labs all over the world that perform circulating tumor cells. I have used them all, most of them, because I like to use all different labs to see, like, what do I think is the best, okay? The US labs, everybody's circulating tumor cells came back 0. So I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because that's impossible, right? So anyway, I started using German labs and French lab, and then I found RGCC, which is in Greece. It's only in Greece because the doctor is from Greece, and he had to live there because that's where his family, because he works 100 hours a week, and he needs to be where his family can be taken care of because he's married now with a Greek school teacher who has twins. Anyway, so the Greek lab, and the reason why they have a panoramic vision of cancer in their cancer testing. So the circulating tumor cells, does not respond to surgery, does not respond to chemo, and does not respond to radiation. Everybody know that, right? So why is the circulating tumor cells so important? 95% of metastasis. So she's watching it because what does she doesn't want her cancer to come back. And nobody wants their cancer to come back. So, and cancer is a chronic condition. So it's something you should be dialed in with a practitioner every once in a while. If your circulating tumor cells are 0, you should be seeing your doctor once a year to make sure everything's still okay. Just as if you were to have diabetes, just as if you were to have heart disease. So the only thing that kills circulating tumor cells are natural substances, so I am sure she got that test. So you should be rotating your natural substances for the circulating tumor cell. And then we do something called another treatment that we do. It's a very targeted treatment that you can go online and look and read about called SOT. So just go online and read about that process and procedure. Now, nagalase. Everyone knows what nagalase is?
No.
Okay, so let's talk about nagalase. We have a special cell in our immune system called macrophages. Macrophages are the little Pac-Man that go in and eat the bad stuff. So when you have cancer, those macrophages aren't working because your body makes an enzyme called nagalase that you can measure in your blood, and then nagalase poisons the macrophage, inhibiting and preventing that macrophage to attack the cancer cell. So there's something called GCMAP. GCMAP is the director of your immune system, not just in cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's. Again, every disease is related to your immune system. So we have to take things. Now, years ago, I used to use a company in Japan who I could get the GCMAP. And then I found an easier way from a product in New Zealand, and we use it here called the Bravo Probiotic Suppository and the Bravo Probiotic Yogurt. So those two things will bring down the nagalase level. So, what was her next question?
Okay, I have another patient.
Okay, another question.
I am postmenopausal with a history of breast cancer. Recently found via ultrasound a small mass in ovary. Doctor wants to remove both ovaries and tubes in case it's cancerous. We'll use robotic laparoscopy. Saying it's urgent to move quickly to spread if it's cancerous. What are your thoughts?
That's a great question because that happens a lot, right? Think about it. You go, you're cyst, I got breast cyst, you go get this, you get cyst, you go to get your liver, you get that checked. You know, I mean, think about it because the eyes only see what it knows, and we don't. The doctor doesn't know. The radiology doesn't know. Now here we have very special ways of figuring out because I want to know my opponent before we dive in. Why? Because I want to prepare my patient if he or she needs surgery. I want to do this extensive preparation for the patient, whether it's the thing I talked about earlier about preparing your team for this beautiful, successful surgery that the patient's going to have, right? But it's also nutrition and the supplements. So I had a patient from Canada recently. Her sister is a patient here. She had a breast lump. They did do a biopsy. No, they didn't do the biopsy yet. She thought it was. I said, oh, no, we're going to do this, this, and this. I prepared her for the biopsy. I prepared her for her surgery that she's having tomorrow. And so I did everything to help her prevent metastasis, all the things to do, because that's what you do. So the patient feels so good and so relieved. She knows what's going on, what she has to do, and everything, and what peace that gives you. So in this patient, personally, there would be a lot I would do before I jump in, okay? But obviously I'm not her doctor, so she needs to find a doctor to partner up with so she knows how to prepare her body before surgery. Trust me, you guys, I've had 3 pelvic surgeries, so I know. You prepare because what is surgery? Surgery is an invasive, injurious, immunosuppressant process. All 3. So think about it. If you did hyperbaric and you took high dose vitamin C and you had the perfect eating and your head was in peace, think how different your outcome's gonna be. Right? Might not, you could maybe even with your head turn this into a non-cancerous event. Because your mind is that powerful. It's that powerful. Like one of my patients came in to tell me that, oh, I just want my kids to get out of high school. I'm like, that's all, is that all you want? That's all you want, is you want your kids to get out of high school? And she goes, no, I can't wait to see my kids' grandchildren. I said, do you really believe that? Because you can't just say it. You have to believe it. You have to believe in your vision. So with this patient, she needs a lot of workup. She could even do a phone and get some tests ordered and things, maybe a phone or Skype, to really ascertain, because that's not a simple little go in there and do surgery. No.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, in that vein, I'm lined up for the dendritic vaccine. How can I make it more successful as far as, it working?
Mm-hmm. So she asked about, she's going to be doing the dendritic cell vaccine, which is being done literally all over the world. And what it is, the dendritic cells are the cells that prepare the immune system and prepare the platform for the cancer cell. So what do you do though? And it's using only her cells. So because you have these cells called T cells, and T cells are part of your immune system. Then you have the B cells, and then you have all these other what they call interleukins and all kind of things. So you do your immune frame. Have you done your immune frame?
Today.
Today. So she did her immune frame. What is the immune frame? The immune frame is the picture of her immune system, of hers. Just like if you did it, you get one of yours, everybody. And then whatever is not right on that, then the doctor's going to fix it with vitamin E or D or A or curcumin or resveratrol or double helix water, all these things depending on what you need. So then you do all that, and then you're ready to have your dendritic cell vaccine. Your mind plays an important part in whatever you're doing. If all of you here have not done emotional work, that includes myself, I'm a patient too, you cannot move forward. You can't. And that took me 30 years to learn. So I'm giving you a very fast, quick lesson.
But I mean, as far as with the dendritic vaccine, not going on trips or.
Oh no, you can live your life like that. That's fine.
Okay, so.
Yeah, that's okay.
Fly
You're-
to Japan.
Yeah.
None of that matters.
No. You don't have to
About-
live in a cage. No.
When you have struggled to get enough sleep.
Well, sleep is critical. After breathing, sleep is the second most important thing you need, literally. So if you're not sleeping 8 hours, it's 8 hours. It's not 6, it's not 5, it's 8 to 8.5 hours. All the studies. So that's when repair, rejuvenation takes place. So if you're not sleeping, you've got to figure out what works for you for sleep.
Is it best time between 10 and 2? Is that how it works? Or?
Yes, they say somewhere, there's specialists, circadian rhythm specialists say some people are going to be 10, some people are going to be 11. So if they go to bed at 11, that means they'd wake up at 7. If they go to bed at 10, it's 6-ish. Yeah, so are you sleeping?
Not that well.
Okay.
I've always struggled with sleep.
Okay, so you need to work on that. And I tell people there is not one simple cocktail. If you take sleeping pills, you increase your risk of dying about 30%. You suppress your immune system.
Well, I take herbal stuff.
Yeah. So herbal, melatonin's very anti-cancer and it's an antioxidant. Doesn't work for every single person, but it is a very important hormone. Then you can take different things. You have to try different things. Everybody's different. I have all different things I try on patients.
Okay, so obviously sleep, emotions.
Water, purified water.
Okay.
She's saying how is she going to ensure optimal success when she gets any treatment? That would be first, how you think. And that is something that takes lots of attention. It really does. It takes lots of attention because you are an accumulation of experiences and all of us learned how to think from our parents and parents, parents, and parents, 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 then how you were born and how your mother or father or whoever was around you talked to you. So you learn, like if you say, oh no, you can't do a cartwheel, well then you get in your mind you can't do a cartwheel, okay? Like literally, that's simple things like that happen. So if your parents or people significant around you created limited belief systems, then that's who you become. There's a great book you should read called If Words Were Magic, because words are so critical and powerful to yourself and to every single one other person. That's why you should never ever be mean or evil or rude to any person, no matter how you feel. I told my daughter when she was 16 and she like whooped off at me, and I said, wait a second, am I ever like that with you? Do I ever act like that with you? She's like, no. I said, you never can. You're gonna have bad days. Everyone has a bad day, or many bad days. But don't inflict your pain on other people. Be nice, be caring, be loving, because at the end of the day, guess who's gonna win? You are.
Right. We gotta win.
Right,
This
exactly.
is the battle we're gonna win.
Yeah, so anyway, so you talked about mind and emotions, right? And then we talked about water, and then we talked about eating and how we you know, people always say, well, I can't eat like that, or I can't get my kids to eat like that. I'm like, do your 4-year-olds go to the grocery store? Like, I never gave my kids a choice. My children are grown today, and they go, Mom, you really should have been harder on us on everything. And I was very strict. I had a very strict mother, so I was very strict. And so they said, Mom, you should never let a child, they're 24-year-old twins now. They go, you should never let any child make a decision. They have no insight on how to live a life. I was like, what? Where did you come from? Like, you know, but this is what they tell me now. So it's so interesting how we all need to take heed to those rules. So, yeah, because how can a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 2-year-old, even I had a new patient today, 36 years old, she had her 2-year-old, and I asked her how she ate. She goes, well, I'm getting kind of lazy. And I said, lazy? Even if you're lazy, you can make good choices, right? Even if you're lazy. Luckily, we're living in this creative world where there is options galore. My gosh, they have every little conceivable thing in a package, easy, ready to go. Right?
Okay, clarify the book about words.
If words were magic.
If words were magic, and then how often do you rotate supplements, herbal chemo?
Okay, that's a good question. How soon? So if they're specific herbs for the RGCC test, we usually do it monthly. Like you're on a supplement a month and then you switch another month. If you want to, you could do it weekly. You could do one a week and then rotate depending, you know. Your other supplements, you're going to change. Some of the things, like I take magnesium every day, and I take essential oil, essential fatty acids. Those really are not changed. Okay, they're kind of the same. And vitamin D, I usually use the same company for those 3 products. So my multi, I change all the time. I use this one, different brands, different things. You know, I personally do 10 ounces of green juice every single morning with a teaspoon of vitamin C and silica in my water, and so that's what I personally do in the morning. And I take my pancreatic enzymes and D, and I just gulp it all down. So, yes.
With that test, how did it determine what supplements you were going to take?
Which test?
The RGCC.
Well, the RGCC, it tells the panel of natural substances that will work on the circulating tumor cells. Remember, there's class 1, class 2, and class 3.
So the specific tumor cells that you have determines the supplements that you're going to take.
That's correct.
I was wondering how that.
Yeah. So, for example, in a say you had a urinary tract infection, and the doctor wanted to discern which antibiotic, they would put the cells in a petri dish, and then this is what they do in the lab right now, and they see what drug works on it. So it's the same concept.
Gotcha.
So yes.
What would you recommend if I am MTHFR positive?
Okay. So what she's asking, if she's
And there's a,
MTHFR
I have a big
positive,
long name, Dr.
that
Keneally.
stands for methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, okay? So you don't want to remember that.
That's it.
So that is how our body makes and processes DNA, which is happening every nanosecond in our body. And so 50% of the population is affected by MTHFR. You should read about it. Some of you in this room have to be MTHFR deficient. It has nothing to do with your mom and dad. Absolutely nothing. It has to do how toxins have affected your ability to replicate your DNA. And so it has to do with an enzyme that's become defective in the production of your DNA. And so you have to take methylated B vitamins. You have to take methylated B vitamins, so like methyl B12, methylfolate. So like we use a lot of different products, methyl protect, we use methylfolate. We have the different products that the patients need to take so that they now make their DNA. Why is this so important? Your DNA makes everything, right? So if you have this defect, you're at risk at so many different diseases if you don't correct it. And it's a lifelong problem. And it has, again, nothing to do with your mom or dad. Great question. Yes?
I have a friend going through liver cancer, and she just needs to get her weight up, but she can't hold anything down. So they've given her anti-nausea medication, but is there something else naturally that she can take to kind of help her?
To help her with her weight? Okay,
Yeah,
so
and to
that's
be
a,
able to hold her food down. 'cause
Yeah,
that's been an issue.
right,
She
to
was
hold her-
coming here for a while, and then went to UCLA to one of the radiologists there to kind of get rid of the tumors.
right.
And she had her last procedure done not too long ago, but she's very weak, very, very weak, and they started chemo, but she can't hold anything down.
Right, so this is a patient who has liver cancer, so that's a very serious situation. And she can't keep her weight, which happens to a lot of patients. So one thing, she may have nausea. Usually for nausea, we do use medicine sometimes. Sometimes we use ginger. Ginger's the natural way to do it. And then sometimes I recommend that you get a feeding tube, because if you can't properly keep food down, I mean, if you don't have food and nutrients and things with energy, like you can't get well. So that they may. Now, people use cannabis to increase your appetite, okay? And again, there's some medications you can use to try to increase your appetite. I use a powder here called Genesis Rice Bran that is full of every nutrient. It's a powder, very easy to do, and it's just loaded with all the nutrients for fortification of all your cells. And it helps put on weight. So I have them do lots of that, like lots. So the problem is a lot of patients get tired of popping pills, which I understand, but this is your life, and like this is what you have to do. So
Thank you.
I'm getting a few questions on Protocell. You had mentioned it in the beginning.
Protocell?
Protocell.
Interesting. Protocell. So those are
They
great.
want to know
What I feel about it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Protocell, it's interesting, because I had one of my employees years ago, probably she's still alive today, she had chronic lymphocytic leukemia, and she was all into natural things. And we read this book, it's a great book, I like the book. The book was Outsmart Your Cancer. And it was all about, like, literally how we're talking about right now. But then they told to use this Protocell. So I'm like, when I get gung-ho, I get gung-ho, and as long as I have a gung-ho patient, let's just try it. Her situation, my employee, was not life-threatening, so she's like, I want to do it. She's really, really smart girl. And so we did it, and every case, I have to say, I did not get the results that I would have hoped for. In fact, I don't think it was good for any case. So anyone listening out there, it's just not something that I think is that efficacious. And when you have cancer, you kind of have to go with things you know have some efficaciousness to them. So, and I'll be honest, we were talking about, Dr. Virginia and I were talking about a case today, and I was like, well, there's not enough remedies for this patient to get well. So because cancer has sensitivity and cancer has resistance. sometimes it's sensitive to what you're doing, and sometimes it's resistant. And you have both populations all at the same time. So if you have something you want to get smaller now, you need to kind of do whatever it takes to get that. Because you can't let grass grow under your feet. That's just what I see today. Is time is not on your side. If time is on your side, then I kind of take my time. No, let's try this and let's do this, But sometimes we get these very, 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 you guys wouldn't believe. I got a case today. I've got to call the people back. It's a 50-year-old with liver cancer, hepatitis C, and it's, the mass is as big as his liver. So they want to know if I can help. So anyway, yes.
Okay, we have 5 more minutes too.
Okay.
Hi, what do you recommend for breast cancer 3 negative surgery, chemo, now metastasis on fluids in the lungs? What's the next step for lung fluids?
Well, sometimes if it's stage 3.
Stage 3 negative.
What do you mean, triple negative?
I think she's saying triple negative. We recommend for breast cancer 3 negative, triple negative.
Well,
surgery,
triple negative
chemo.
means, remember we were talking about the estrogen receptor, PR receptor, and HER2. So if they're triple negative, that's in a whole nother category. And so those patients have to be treated very different than the estrogen receptor positive cancer, which is the most common one. And so she's triple negative. It sounds like she had cancer and it's all come back. Is that correct?
Hopefully she'll come back.
Yeah, so if it's come back and it sounds like it's gone into her lungs, so she may have to go get a tube and get that tapped fluid, because then she can't breathe and all that kind of thing, because it's just so uncomfortable. And so she may have to go get the lung tap to get the fluid, and then she needs intensive treatment. And the problem, you guys, if you get chemo, if you just do regular intensive chemo, you destroy so much of your system that it's hard to get well. So, and it sounds like she's already been treated before, and triple negative chemo doesn't work a lot of the time anyway. So, I hope that answered her question.
So we have 5 minutes.
I
Yeah.
have a question.
Sure.
How often should we get be retested by our GCC with the report to find out A, B, and C, different,
This the one class 1, 2, and 3.
or class 1, 2?
Probably just once a year. She asked how often should you do an RGCC test. I think once a year to check and see if the agents have changed, because again, you're in chess. You're in a chess game every day with cancer, right? Every day, and so that's why your self-talk has to be impeccable, telling the cells you're in charge, not the cancer's not in charge. You're in charge, right? And so the cancer is very different in a year.
So,
And so
I'm having the dendritic vaccine draw, which I did the immune frame,
correct.
but I haven't had the test done. It's been a year and a half.
I would rely on your dendritic cell completely.
Don't worry about being retested? Okay.
Okay, Dr.
That's a good
Keneally, it's
question.
blowing up because I said 5 minutes. This happens. So I'm going to try everybody on Facebook as much as we can. What can be done for CLL?
Chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Actually, that's a pretty easy cancer to treat. So I would recommend get the body all prepared, mentally, physically, nutrients, get all her nutrients, get all her blood checked, get her vitamin D, her CRP, and get with an oncologist who can give her chemo.
Okay.
And then have the doctor, she has to partner with a doctor who can protect her from chemo too, because you've got to protect the body and fortify the body while you're doing chemo. So my staff member who had CLL, that's what she did. We got her all well. She did the chemo, perfect. But she really knew how to fix herself and do all this stuff, and she's still been, that was 20 years ago, long time ago.
So Kristen, I don't understand your question. You have DCIS, lumpectomy wide, clear margins, question mark.
Okay.
Avoid radiation meds, what say you?
Okay, so she's asking, she had something called DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ. They sometimes don't even call it a disease or pathology. Sounds like she had it completely removed. Personally, I don't think she's a candidate for chemo or radiation. I would partner with an integrative doctor, get her circulating tumor cells, get her eating and right, emotion right, because something happened for a reason. So it's a relatively easy thing to fix, but if, again, whatever we resist persists and gets bigger. Correct? How many times could you tell your kids that?
Okay, so everyone's saying THC oil for sleep might help?
Oh,
with
yes. Talking about cannabis and or THC or combination, absolutely. It's a non-toxic treatment for sleep. Is CBD with THC, some combination. And we do use that here too.
Okay, Mary, you're next. Does Hodgkin's lymphoma react differently to alternative treatment than any other types of cancer?
Well, there's a couple of cancers, just like we're talking, well, might as well bring that subject up. So Hodgkin's is very responsive to chemo. If you have testicular cancer, chemo along, but I tell people, you never just do chemo. You must do the complementary therapies, because why did this happen to begin with? You have to understand the origin of your problem. Heart disease, cancer, it doesn't matter. You have to understand the why, where, when, and how. How are you going to take care of yourself if you don't? You just don't treat the illness, see you later, bye. You have to understand why all this happened. This is the whole purpose of being here, is to understand yourself. The self-mastery program is under construction all the time, and that's what's going to keep you alive. I'm not going to keep you alive. You and you and you with all this information is going to keep you alive. So this patient, she's asking very good questions, but they found something that just wasn't right. Figure out why. Don't wait. Don't wait until something drastic happens. Because guess what? You guys, we're in a crisis in medicine. We can't, there's not enough doctors, hospitals, caretakers to take care of the pandemic of disease. And it's not just in adults, it's in children. So we all have to learn this and help us learn this together. And we got to teach our kids, like me. You think I don't, ad nauseum tell my kids about how to live life? All the time. And they're grown adults now. And they, fortunately they grew up with this. But being a mother never stops, right? Because they do kind of think you're a little loony sometimes,
Okay, so we have one last question.
Yes.
It's not really, but your thoughts on dates and figs.
Oh, dates and figs, actually, they're really good, and they have a lot of good nutrients. I grew up, my grandmother had a fig tree, but there's so many antioxidants in figs. So figs, there is sugar in it, but if you combine that sugar with a little fat, so then you lessen the glycemic high. So, and you can't have 10 figs and 10 dates. Have one of each, but they're actually very nutritional, really good for your GI tract too. So absolutely.
Okay, that's it.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate everybody being a part and on our online community. Thank you for cheering us on and giving us more questions.